Good afternoon and welcome to the meeting of the Finance, Budget and Personnel Committee. Today is June 18th, 2024, and we are adjourned. We are at City Hall on 207 West 6th Street. With the time we have here, first of all, we will ask if anybody has any conflicts of interest that they wish to expose to anybody? Okay, that being done, we'll move on to citizen comments. Now we have a number of people here tonight who want to speak. I think they're all on a lot of them are on the same subject. If you're on a subject that's on the agenda, I'd ask you to wait for public speaking. It's only the third thing down the list here, so it's not too long. And that way you can speak as a group. You can and make sure everybody has their say. Okay, so is there anybody that doesn't have something on the agenda that would care to talk? Third time, anybody? Done. Okay. So the next up is the consent agenda. That's on the consent agenda tonight. We have the minutes of the June 4th, 2024 meeting and the bills and payroll. What is your pleasure?
I'll move to approve.
Moved by Andy, second by?
Natasha. Second.
Second by Natasha. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. There are no items removed from the consent agenda. Next up is a request to recommend council approval of library payroll resolution increasing the pay scale for library staff by 1% effective July 1st, 2024, and it will be presented by Jill Porter. Jill, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner. As outlined in my memo, the library adopted a new pay scale this year that was based on information that Gunderson Detman pulled together for the Department of Public Instruction. I've always been curious because they've gathered all the salary data from us for all these years, but they actually never did anything to make it public. This year, they finally got it out into a form that we could use to do our pay scale. So we made those adjustments, and in working with Steve and finance for our budget this year, we decided to do the step increases in January and do the 1% cost of living increase in July to help out with the budget. So my memo is to get your approval for the 1% increase in July, and then the library board will sign off on this on Thursday.
Move to approve.
Motion by
Me.
Varsho?
Yes.
Okay. Who's the second?
I'll second.
Second by Andy. Discussion? There being none, all those in favor, please say aye. Oh, I'm sorry, Natasha, you have a question, obviously.
I do.
Okay.
I was just wondering if the city, when we're doing this new pay scale, we need to put people on the transition lane just because we don't have enough money to plop them in the right spot yet. Do you guys need to do that, or are you?
No, we're
okay?
all set.
Great.
Okay. Now, does anybody else have a question? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And so carried. Thank you, Jill. And now the next subject is one that I think we're all here for tonight. Request to consider $10,000 contribution to Columbus Catholic Fieldhouse Project. Presented by Mary Jo Wheeler-Schuler, Chairperson of the Economic Development Board. Mary Jo, you've got the floor.
Thank you, Chairman.
Sorry.
And it's 100,000, not 10,
Okay.
just to correct that. Good evening, everyone. My name is Mary Jo Wheeler-Schuler. I'm Chair of the Economic Development Board for the City of Marshfield. I'm here tonight to provide some information regarding the Columbus Fieldhouse project. Here's a quote from the EDB bylaws. The Economic Development Board was established by Ordinance 1227 with the City of Marshfield for the purpose of directing, overseeing, and coordinating all economic development activities within the City of Marshfield to adopt plans and strategies designed to foster business growth and development, and to ensure that the city and its partners work in a cooperative manner to provide coordinated economic development in the community. Another quote. The EDB shall act and exercise its powers, duties, and functions under the authority of the Common Council. The powers granted to the EDB board shall be exercised in accordance with applicable federal law, Wisconsin law, and is granted by ordinances of the city of Marshfield. Columbus High School brought forward a proposal for $10.5 million state-of-the-art field house. The facility will be the hub for athletics in central Wisconsin and beyond. We have no natural resources here, people. We have no rivers, we have no mountains. We are geographically in the center of the state for the state, and we're easy to get to. This facility will draw teams and tournaments that cannot or will not go to just a game in Wisconsin Dells or similar facilities. We have no natural resources. This will pull people from Minneapolis, Chicago, and the Fox Valley. There are other plans being considered for additional facilities in the city that can cater to different sports and different events. This is an opportunity to demonstrate Marshfield's support for those other development projects. When we bring teams, players, and parents into Marshfield, they spend their money at our restaurants, at our hotels, at our stores. Hotels, which hover around 30% capacity in the wintertime. Columbus is asking for $100,000, and they have already raised over $10 million from local business donors and private people. Because of the influx in traffic and people, this will be a huge economic impact to Marshfield. The EDB thought this is a no-brainer and voted 5-2 to approve it. $100,000 for the Columbus facility. Some members of the Finance and Budget Committee feel this may or may not be in line with policy 4.450. Even though this policy does not disqualify Columbus from receiving EDB money, it doesn't matter. In section 3.01 of the EDB bylaws, it clearly states the EDB powers should be exercised in accordance with ordinances. 4.450 is a policy, not an ordinance. As an economic development board, we're working under the authority of the Common Council. We voted to approve the $100,000 for the Columbus Fieldhouse project. If the members of the EDB, in addition to local business owners and constituents, will financially support this project, why won't you? I will now give the floor to Coach Joe Konieczki, Columbus High School Athletic Director and head of the boys basketball coach, to present the plans for the Fieldhouse and anyone else on his team.
Hello again, and thank you. I have two things. I know many of you have been given this at prior meetings, but I have a folder that explains the facility. I have 4 of those, and then I have a letter from Matt McLean explaining the economic impact of such a facility in the Marshfield community.
Joe, can you please state your address for the record?
2401 West 4th Street, Marshfield. So I've been the athletic director and the boys basketball coach at Columbus for 19 years. This will be my 20th year. I've enjoyed every minute of it. I'm not a business person. I'm not a financial person. My business is trying to produce young people to have certain qualities when they turn 18 years old so they can be active participants in their community. At previous meetings, I've expressed concerns about what's going on in youth athletics. And at Columbus and at the Marshfield Public School System and a variety of schools in the area, we send our team to large facilities in Wisconsin Dells, the Fox Valley, Milwaukee, Minneapolis on a routine basis where we get hotel rooms and we eat meals and we give our money to other communities. Selfishly, I'd love to have these things locally so we don't have to travel. Monday, I sent my varsity team to Altoona. We got back at 11 last night. On Thursday, we'll go to the Dells. And an increase in enrollment at Columbus created a situation where if we were going to continue to have all these offerings, we needed to increase facilities. So we put together a plan The plan in your packet, it shows 4 new classrooms, a field house with 4 full basketball, volleyball courts, 2 batting cages, and a new fitness center. We broke down every part of the project to be paid for separately with donations, naming rights, et cetera. The education center is done. That is paid for and completed. So the $100,000 is for the field house, the 4-court facility, which will house tournaments, basketball, volleyball, leagues. We've talked about pickleball, a number of things. To give you some numbers, we hosted 19 tournaments at Columbus last year between basketball and volleyball. Those are one-day events right now because we have 1 full-size gym. Usually we host 4 to 6 teams. With this facility, we'll be able to host 12 to 16 teams and overnight events. Our plan is to host 26 events per year, with 18 to 20 of them being overnight events. Mr. McLean looked at the economic impact that could have on the community, and he came up with a number that's in that letter of $800,000 per year, which is return on investment, which we feel is pretty high. Our committee consists of some of the best business minds in Marshfield who have done a fantastic job raising $10 million. That's going door to door. 100% of the donations go right to the project. And it's been, somebody asked me at the last meeting, should we have a public forum to see if the community supports it? In my opinion, I think the fact that the people in this community have already donated $10 million shows that the community supports it. And among those donors are some local business owners who own hotels and restaurants. Century 21, Mr. Rail, Mr. Jacobson is here tonight, Nasonville Dairy. The list of businesses that have supported this is very high. And I know that you have to look at the numbers, and I hope that Matt's letter addresses the numbers. I am more looking at it from our youth standpoint. I want as many young people playing sports as possible. I think it's the only 2 hours a day I can get them to put down their phones and really work on some things that develop them as people. And I want them doing that in Marshfield. I think there has been a transition towards club sports. So a lot of families are traveling 2 or 3 nights a week. As a result, we've seen decreased participation in multi-sports. So a lot of young people are specializing because they have to play their club sport 2 hours away. There are a lot of things that we've addressed at prior meetings and I can answer questions on tonight. I am humbly asking you to help us finish off this project so starting next summer we can bring people to this community on a regular basis. Mr. McLean would like to say something now, please.
Hello, Matt McLean, 609 North Hume Avenue, Marshfield, and with Visit Marshfield. I just have a little bit of additional information I wanted to pass out, so bear with, our Mary Jo will pass that out for me. In addition to the letter of support that I wrote, on the second page is a possible annual economic impact from the facility. And it kind of breaks down where I came up with $836,160 of visitor spending. And this was using like state tourism calculators as well as personal experience dealing with the sporting groups and events. And so some data I just wanted to pull out of there is really estimate about 10,000 visitors coming annually for these 26 events that are planned, with about 3,000 to 4,000 of those staying overnight. And so it's really the teams that come from over an hour away, sometimes 90 minutes away, are likely to stay overnight. And if the tournaments are Friday, Saturday, Sundays, that really drives the visitor traffic. And the weekends is a neat part for us, especially weekends in the winter. I think, as Jesse can attest to, if there's not a tournament or some sporting events going on, it can be a little bit, be pretty quiet at some of the hotel properties. So I just wanted to be here tonight to voice my support, and Visit Marshfield would be very excited to help with these tournaments, sponsor them, and promote and market to get out-of-market teams to come. So I'm here to answer any questions if needed.
Chairman, does anyone have any questions for anybody in the group?
I'd hold off until after everybody had a chance to.
Okay.
First. Okay.
Is there anybody else that would like to come and talk?
Basically, I'm asking you just to present your case, Mary Jo.
Case being presented.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ken Hyman. I live at 10487. I'm just out down in Lincoln, outside of town here. I believe very strongly in this project, and I hope that you'll do the same, because what it really means to this community, we don't have just a game like they do in the Dells. We don't have this. And it can't be done, honestly. We're making it public. But really, if you all know right now what our school system is looking at for their adventures or what they want to do. And I can guarantee you that this will not be in their realm. And so we've taken this on, but really what this means to our surrounding small schools is unbelievable. I mean, you start talking Pittsville, you start talking Stratford, Auburndale, talk all of them. It all makes a difference. And the more we bring these people into the city, we have the infrastructure, we have the hotels, we have the restaurants, we have all of this to bring these people in, the shops and so forth. And this is what's really, really important here. We need to do not only for the kids, but we need to do this so that we could bring more focus to Marshfield. And honestly, I realize $100,000 is a lot of money. Don't get that wrong. But you have to realize it's less than 1% of this project. I know it's a lot, but it's less than 1%. The rest of it has all come from local businesses here and a lot of the people that you'll see around the area. So with that, I thank you. If you have any questions for me, best I know, I'd be glad to answer. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm David Eaton. I'm the president of Columbus Catholic Schools, 1506 South Locust here in Marshfield. Was brought up after an Economic Development Board committee. Why are people hearing from Joe and not from me? Well, the City Planning Commission heard from me plenty as we were trying to get a campus district for this construction. I just want to follow up on a couple of things that Ken and Joe said in terms of, the economic impact, and Matt, the economic impact. Matt's help on this was invaluable in helping us determine what could we really be bringing into the city of Marshfield. And it focused on tournaments. Well, but Joe right now is running camps for hundreds of kids. And many of those kids do not attend Columbus Catholic schools. They attend surrounding public schools districts. Right now, I believe Joe said he's got kids in his camp from 8 different communities. This is a larger facility, larger camps, larger tournaments, bringing in a lot more people. And really, it's, if there are any concerns about, but we're a religious institution. Well, the city attorney can tell you about the state of the law on that. This is a completely secular, non-religious activity that we're asking you to engage in. And the return on investment is considerable. When you think over $800,000 a year in perpetuity off of a $100,000 investment, to be able to say the city supported the business owners that are supporting the project because the project is going to help support their businesses as well. Thank you.
I think that's it.
Okay. So now we'll open it up to the council members. Oh, excuse me. Rebecca, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I have a couple of different questions. And I'm just looking for explanations of what tournaments mean. Okay, so is Columbus Catholic always hosting all of the tournaments? Would you always be the host, or do other organizations host tournaments also that you guys don't participate in?
We go all over the state. We have it set up right now. For an example, we have 10 youth basketball teams. I have one gym, so I allow each of them to host 1 or 2 tournaments because that's all I have room for. What we found during COVID and since COVID is that the number of schools willing to host has greatly declined. And that has caused a situation where we have to try to host multiple events in a day sometimes. We have rented the Armory. We have used the YMCA, who's been very gracious. But they have to cater to their members and to other organizations as well. So to answer your question, we go to a lot more than we host. We're hoping to make it a higher percentage that we're able to stay in town for.
Okay, and then it says 26 basketball and volleyball tournaments projected annually. So are any of those secured already, or is that a number that you're like kind of just going through your head and thinking,
Well, we are in leagues right now where we fill out hosting forms, hosting recommendations. Those are based on historically what we would have had the opportunity to host. Right now, we're hosting 19 or 20, I believe. There are 6 or 7 every year that I decline because I do not have a facility on that weekend. That number does not include summer leagues, which I think is going to increase this even more. Right now, we go to leagues in Altoona, Wisconsin Dells, Wausau, Wisconsin Rapids is hosting one, and we desperately need one here in Marshfield, not only for varsity boys, varsity girls, JV girls, volleyball, varsity and JV. We could host 6 leagues a summer with this facility if we wanted to add to those 26 events. Those are not hotel situations, but those are meal situations where those teams do come here and eat. As we did in Altoona last night, Quick Trip seems to be very popular amongst our team.
And then, so just getting into the next topic, you said those are not hotel events. How many of those would be hotel events? And then to go further into that, this is the only experience I have with tournaments, is I have a grandson who plays tournaments for ice hockey. And when they travel to a tournament, they have to stay within a certain hotel, the whole team, the whole block. So has that been worked out? Are you distributing that among hotels, or is it just wherever they want to stay when they come to Marshfield?
It's wherever they want to stay. When I host an event, I always send information that includes hotels. And right now we're in a situation in Marshfield where I think we don't always have enough hotels, so I do try to include all of them. If somebody wanted to sponsor and become the first recommendation, we definitely do that. But right now, we're just trying to find space for the teams we have.
Okay, and then I think one last question, at least one that's coming to my mind right now. We talked about the secular teams playing. Are there teams from secular schools in every single tournament, or?
Yes.
Okay, every tournament will host.
100%. It's all our welcome. I think, and I said it at the last meeting, I think the perception of Columbus is a little bit off. We are not in the conversion business. We have students, we had 202 there today. I do not know what faith any of them belong to, nor do we discuss it. We work on left hand, right hand, making layups, which it's not a non-secular thing. It is, we are trying to offer this to everybody. I tell people the word Catholic means universal, and we are universally open to whoever you are, with respect, regardless of what you believe.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, please, Natasha.
I think most of these questions will be for the president of the school.
Okay.
Do you know what the cost of the field house is, that portion of the project?
Really, the cost of the field house is just that portion alone is probably going to be in excess of $8 million. It is easily 80% of the total. When you think about the space, this is a 50,000 square foot facility, and the vast majority of that is taken up by the athletic portions.
Okay, thank you. Do you have 2 basketball courts right now?
We have one full-size court at Columbus High School. Now, we have elementary courts, but honestly, they're not full-size. The one at Our Lady of Peace never was intended to be a basketball court. That's how bad it is. It was originally Our Lady of Peace Church. And whatever the footprint was, that's what got turned into basketball court, and it would not even be regulation for a middle school. So hosting in our elementaries is very cramped. There is really no seating for parents in attendance except right up on the edge of the court, one row of chairs, maybe 40 people can sit. And it, they're not really conducive to hosting much of anything other than one game at a time. One game is there.
So with the one full court that you have and you're planning to build 4, are you going to tear down that one full court, or will you have 5?
No, that will still be at Columbus High School. This is going to actually connect Columbus Middle School and High School to Our Lady of Peace. For those who are familiar with the site, sit on the location of the former convent that was there, and actually having 5 playing surfaces, and the coach is way more conversant at this than I am, that 5th playing surface is really what could get us larger tournaments and league play.
So $8 million, about 80% of the project will be the field house. And I'm wondering, because I'm looking through your packet just really quickly, scanning it, and it seems that the field house will also be used for Phi-Ed classes and various school functions. So I'm wondering if real quickly you could calculate of the percentage of time that that field house is going to be used, what percentage would be used for tournaments or things that are bringing people to Marshfield, so not school events?
Well, even some school events bring people to Marshfield. Our Alpine Holiday event started off with bringing 1,600 people to Marshfield for Charlie Barron's 2 shows. That was pretty significant, and they were late, and so that was a lot of hotel stays. But yes, it would be used for our Lady of Peace kids for Phi-Ed. So that's 1 court out of the 4 would be used every day for about half of the day for those kids. Depending on the student population of Columbus Middle and High School, we could get to the point where the middle school would need to use one of those courts half a day as well. But realistically, when you're looking about a day-long tournament that may run over into 2 days, particularly summer tournaments that may go Friday, Saturday, finishing up on a Sunday, that's a pretty significant extent of time, even though it's only 26 times a year. So you think, all right, middle school and intermediate school could now use the space together for half a day. All right, we had about 4 hours of use per 175 days of school.
Okay, so I'm thinking that if about 50% of the weekends would be tournaments, and you would use this field house for half days, so 2.5 days during the week, and potentially, let's say a tournament is about the same. So it's not a 50-50 because it's 50% of weekends. So maybe we're talking about a 2-to-1 ratio or a 2 to 1.5 ratio.
A tournament could be, Joe.
Well, we have 17.
Yeah.
There are about 17 students in the class, which is why I think our enrollment's grown, is because we try to keep classes under 17. So 17 students half the day versus if we have 12 teams at 10 players a team and they all bring 1 parent, those weekend tournaments, you're talking hundreds, maybe 1,000 people in the facility versus the 17 in 1 Phi-Ed class. So I think it's much greater than a 2-to-1 ratio.
Yeah, in this question, I'm not actually asking how many people would use the facility. I'm asking the block of time. Is the facility being used for the purpose of school education, or is it being used for economic development? So I think I got that question answered. And then I'm just going to ask one more.
Chairman, can I address something really quick? Natasha, what percentage does the city receive from the hotels that are full? Do you know?
I happen to have that information here.
Okay.
I'll get it to you.
Okay, so every hotel that's filled, the city gets 8% return on investment for those people coming in.
That's not my question. My question is just...
I understand. I just wanted to clarify it.
I understand that.
Seemed confused.
Thank you. And then the last would be, besides tournaments, would these facilities be open to any other public use in Marshfield?
We've discussed public use. Now, certainly one of the things that I was thinking about that is a potential, we may have one of the largest facilities in town once this is built, and that could be conducive to an awful lot of things, including foreseeably the city of Marshfield might want to host an event there and use that. Even with just our 1 full-size high school gym, there are public schools who occasionally ask to use our gym time. We don't have gym time, but occasionally we get asked because they don't either. So there's the potential for that. You know, one of our goals is to get our kids home by 6 o'clock instead of 9:30, 10 o'clock because practices run late. Well, that leaves time for additional activities that are not necessarily taking up our students' time. You know, I mentioned Alpine Holiday already. That is a community event. Yes, we host, but we host people from all over the area and certainly from inside Marshfield. And this is likely to be the new venue of it.
Thank you so much.
Oh, Anybody else?
To answer that more fully, we've had 14 teams that are not Columbus teams practice either at Columbus High School or in the OLP gym. Most recently, an AAU basketball team did not have any Columbus young people on it. Anytime somebody calls and that gym's open, I show up with the keys and I let them in. And I don't believe that anybody has been more willing to open a facility for anybody that wants it than myself for 20 years. So to answer your question, yes, whoever needs access or gym space will have it.
Rebecca, you're next.
I think this question is more for Matt. So Matt, I'm looking at your sheet that you passed out and specifically going down to the part that says per overnight visitor stay equals 627,120 estimated economic impact from overnight visitors. First of all, is that $627,120, is that the 8% of hotel tax, or is that the hotel cost in total?
That's actually direct visitor spending. So this, excuse me, the State Department of Tourism published a number that the average overnight visitor in the state of Wisconsin spends $134. So it's like per person.
Okay, so you base that on per person and how many?
Correct.
Okay. So did you break this down further to show what we would be getting back, what the city would be getting back, and what you would be getting back? As far as room tax?
I didn't do that really on here, but I guess if we look at about, say, 800,000, and then you think the average overnight stay, if it's around $100, is typically, depending on the season, you can look at $8 per room. So I think you could, I'm trying to think. I'd have to run it more, but I think it would probably be in the like $50,000 range because it's per visitor. So sometimes there's 3 visitors in one room.
Are you saying 50,000 per year would be the total room tax, or you're saying 50,000 per year would be the city's portion?
I think that would be total, but again, that's kind of a guesstimate based off this here. I haven't quite gone that deep in the data collection.
Okay, so say it was around 50,000, so then 30% of that would be coming to the Parks Capital Project, correct, and then 70% would be going to visit Marshfield.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm going to pop in here. Just Rebecca, I asked for those same numbers today, and what went on in the year 2021, years 2021, 2022, and 2023. And with the figures were in 2021, this is what went to the capital improvements fund for the Park and Rec Capital Improvement Fund. In 2021, it was $155,055.12. Sorry to get down to the pennies, but anyway. In 2022, it was $196,805, and in 2023, it was $206,002. So but that was from all, as long as I've got Matt up at the podium.
Sure.
That was the revenue or the room tax from all taxable entities, like every hotel, and it's only the hotels that pay this tax, right?
Correct.
Okay. So
actually, sorry, there are some Airbnbs that do as well.
And you're trying to break this, and you're trying to break this down, visitors per trip, and that estimate is way over that. So,
Ed, I'm not sure I understand.
well, there, I'll let Rebecca, you had something to go, didn't you? I'm sorry to interrupt, but
I'm just trying to piece together here what's happening. So the numbers that you got from 2021, 2022, and 2023 are before this project, though. I'm trying to kind of guesstimate. I'm looking for a return on investment. That's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for anything but the return on investment. So, and I realize that's hard to figure out. So room tax only comes from hotel stays or VRBOs or bed and breakfasts or whatever you just said. So you're estimating that total maybe to be 50,000, 30,000 would come to the parks capital projects out of 50,000.
I think if it would be a 70-30 split based on that 50,000, which I was guessing. So I think if you did 70% of, 30% of 50,000, I think is roughly 15,000.
Right.
So one thing I do want to comment on policy number 4.450, which we are not covered to. You guys have a process in there that somebody wrote. So all I have to say is the return on investment for this project would be better than the 171.58 years that you guys were hoping to calculate off of your policy. So your return on investment would be fairly quick based on that.
Mr. Marshall.
We could kind of figure out this, couldn't we? We have baseball tournaments and softball tournaments at the 3 fields down here. I live near them. I see the people there. They're there for Friday night. They're there for Saturday. They're for Sunday. There's 12 kids on a team, maybe for baseball. There's 20 teams there. We could figure out what they're spending in town for that weekend, and it would easily be enough to say exactly what they're saying here. 26 tournaments. They have 12 tournaments down there. What are we making from those 12 tournaments?
Yeah, on that second page, if you got the handout I had, I kind of tried to break that down.
I know, and I can't read that because I don't have my reading glasses with me. So, but no, I mean, we do that right now. Those fields are packed. There's got to be we got to be bringing in revenue for that.
Yeah, correct. We had about 60 teams over 2 weeks for Badger State games the last 2 weekends.
So I mean, it's the numbers are all there. I just think that it's, I don't know, I think it would be more than just 15,000 that you just kind of told Rebecca. I think it would be more than that.
I think there's I think what I was trying to say is that the return to the 30% of the hotel room tax to go to Parks and Rec would be 15,000. So the full number that I think could be collected in hotel room tax could be $50,000. And then if, that's 8%, $50,000 of 8%, you're talking a few $100,000 of rooms, maybe $500,000. I'm sorry, I'm not.
No, I know.
In my head.
Okay, thank you.
Andy?
I think Ms. Spears had her hand up first.
Oh, well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just want to make one quick comment following Brian's comments. I kind of think maybe you estimated a little bit low too, just by numbers I'm running in my head. But I want to stress that I'm looking at what the parks would receive from this, but I certainly do recognize the economic impact it would have on this community. And I think that that's also very important. It's important for our hotels to thrive. It's important for our restaurants to thrive. And mostly it's important for our youth to thrive. And you cannot put a dollar on that. And I'm going to leave it at that you cannot put a dollar on that, the importance of that.
Andy, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm not sure if this is directed at Mr. Barg or Mr. Wolfgren, but would that policy that's been mentioned before, is this applicable in this situation?
Excuse me?
So the question is whether the policy applies. My opinion is the policy applies, yeah.
Okay.
Although there's certainly, that doesn't mean that you can't move forward with this project within that policy.
Right. It's just, the policy does apply.
I can give an explanation for that, but I think...
yes or no is good enough right now. And I guess the next question would be, is Columbus a 501c3?
Yes.
It is. Could you bring in a copy of that next time?
Oh, we have everything that's
certificate
required
here?
with us today.
Oh, perfect.
Which one is this?
Just as point of explanation, all Catholic entities in the United States fall under the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops. So basically, there's this one umbrella, it is a 501c3, and because of that, all Catholic entities fall under that. So our IRS determination letter is really for the USCCB, but that applies to us as well.
Right. It's not like other denominations where they're required to get your own individual one for each one. No, understood. Just wanted to make sure, because once again, I think much of this discussion here has been putting the cart ahead of the horse, where we need to first make sure and just do our due diligence that the policy, if it does apply, which it does, is being met. And then secondly, after that, then we have to bring up the elephant in the room of the constitutionality of it. Whether we like it or not, there is some religious association with Columbus High School, and that does present implications for a municipal government. So I think that is the next question there. I mean, I don't think there really is any doubt that this is going to provide benefit. And I don't think you've heard anyone arguing against that, but I think we have to take it a step at a time. And with F501c3, obviously covering the issue here, I don't see anything else in the policy that would present a problem. I would like to see an ROI on it. I think it's very much feasible to do that. But other than that, there really isn't anything that just really jumps out. And I think the next question, though, to be, is this constitutional? And I guess I defer that to Mr. Wolfram again. Is this constitutional?
I have addressed this actually in writing within the last couple of weeks. I think it's been, and there isn't, just because you have a religious entity, that doesn't prohibit us from engaging in business. I think we addressed it that way I think it was the EDB at the time. So that to imply that we couldn't provide a donation to support economic development or enter into a contract. There's plenty of law to support that you can do that. You can't be doing it purely because they are that institution. There's an argument even that it would be discriminatory to blanketly say that you will never provide economic benefit to an institution because of its specific religious affiliation, because that would be based on discrimination as well. So there's certainly support for being able to do that.
Right, but then reading your memo here, Mr. Wolfram, it does say that, the interaction, let me see here. There are instances where a municipality can interact financially with religious organizations, particularly if the interaction is for a secular purpose and does not promote or inhibit religion. And my concern here is that it could potentially promote or inhibit religion, take your pick, but it could potentially have that effect.
I think that's where, I forgot that you were at that meeting. So that's where I think you create that record, that this is what we're doing, this is what we see, this is why it has a secular purpose, and that we are not doing that for that purpose. And I think you can create that on your record based on the reasons that you're going down that path. It's not that there wouldn't be some type of small benefit that could be derived, but what's your purpose in doing it? If it has a secular purpose and there's a secular return, I think that's what's required.
And HAP, we did create that record.
And I guess the follow-up question to that is, have you reviewed that record, Mr. Wolfram?
Well, I think you're creating that record right now. I don't want to go back to what you did at the EDB. I think that's where you are having that discussion here at this point. I think if your body was to decide, we're going to move this on for approval to the Common Council, because I think that's what has to happen. I think that the Common Council could literally pass a resolution that we're going to do this, and here are the reasons, and this is because that policy actually creates that record for you, because you literally are going through, if you look at that policy, and identifying a rate of return. I don't know that anything goes a lot further than establishing that you get a secular purpose in doing it.
Right, because I guess my concern here isn't so much, well, if we get sued as a city, if we'll prevail. I think we can do our due diligence and make sure that's the case, but we're not in a financial position to be incurring legal fees that aren't necessary. And so I guess with that, part of the concern here is the fact that if you go to the Columbus website, anticipated uses, it has on there hosting parish and diocese of lacrosse event right on there. And I think that that could easily be put into part of the record as well, the discussion here and everything else. But then if you have someone suing the city, that's something that could easily be brought up and said, look, this is for something that has religious purpose to it. Whether it's good actor or not, it puts us in a position of now having litigation costs.
I'm not, look, and I've sat in front of the Common Council many times and say, people can sue you for virtually anything. The validity of that, there are certainly things that are more risky. What you've highlighted is more risk. There isn't any doubt. I didn't look at the website that you addressed. And I think the one problem that you have, and I think we discussed this, is just sort of, it's ripe for that type of situation purely because it fits within that category. In other words, somebody makes that point to basically just attack you purely because it falls into that category. And if you go back, we were involved in that type of litigation previously that was, it wasn't that it was not legitimate, but it was vindictive for other reasons. That's why that litigation was brought. And so there's no way of guaranteeing that you're not going to get into that. And you're absolutely right that the mere topic opens the door for that kind of consideration. So I can't disagree with that. The one thing I will say, you also have to be careful to say, again, we're never considering it, but I think you've raised all good issues that creates a record anywhere you want to go.
Right, because I guess the follow-up question, and that is part of the reason why I'm so sensitive of it. When I first moved to Marshfield, that was the topic du jour, was the fact that there was an ongoing lawsuit over a statute on the south side of town. I mean, and for me, that was just shocking, the fact that it was ongoing. Because then, I guess I'm going to ask you a question I know you hate, but I'm going to ask it anyways. With the record that's established at EDB, this conversation here, would we prevail at summary judgment?
Mr. Andy, my idea of my vision of what was supposed to happen here tonight and next Tuesday night would be that this group would make a recommendation to either accept or reject the request of the EDB. And basically, we would present the rest of the council with the record that we're completing here tonight, so that they would have something to look at and basically to decide, make their decision and define it within the policy parameters, which I still think hold up under this. That's what I'm shooting for, and tonight I want us to get enough information out there for us to make that recommendation to the council one way or the other.
Right, I think these questions drive at that. And these are part of the risk factors that we need to associate with this on whether we should move forward with it or not.
I love the fact that Ed was maybe trying to stop me from having to answer that question. And as a lawyer, I think you know why I'm hesitant.
I know exactly why.
So look, I mean, here's what I'm going to tell you is that, and this is going to be just exactly what you might expect. What do I think? I think we get by it. What I'm going to tell you, though, is that the law right now is in a form of sea of change, because if you would have asked me some of the issues that have been decided recently, I'm not sure that I would have anticipated where some of these things have gone. So you're talking about the cutting edge of constitutional law and predicting that absolute outcome. I never could do that. What do I think, though? I think you've got on the record a secular purpose. I think that this council, it's so clear, would not be making a decision in anything other than a situation where we're trying to avoid that with almost absolute certainty, which I can't give you. But the idea that the intent is there is certainly another function that would be in a position to defend us on that kind of issue. So my opinion is, we get by summary judgment, but in this world right now, that's an interesting question. And it's very, very difficult to predict, even as politics and decisions in the law are becoming more and more fluid. It becomes very difficult. That said, I litigated the case on the statute many years ago. And even that decision, would have been difficult to predict. I will say that. I hadn't been involved in the front end of it, but that's, my point is just simply very, very difficult to predict that issue.
Right, no, and I think that's a fair answer, and that's what I need to hear.
Andy, you still got the floor, so.
Yeah, I'll relinquish it while I collect my thoughts.
Okay, Natasha.
Thank you. I'm looking at the policy. So it says here that the public need and necessity for the purposes of this policy means providing of any service or product that enhances public health, safety, and welfare or quality of life. I think this falls under the quality of life. And, this is the and part, coordinates with or enhances services already provided by the city of Marshfield, including law enforcement, fire protection, judicial or welfare that benefits the victims of crime, drug, and/or alcohol abuse or domestic violence. So I think that this project is very clearly in the presentation. You have shown to us that you are meeting the quality of life. I do not see where this coordinates with the services that the city provides. Basically, the services that, is this synergistic with what the services that the city provides with our money, which would be law enforcement, fire protection. I'm wondering if when this is presented to the council, or if it's presented to the council, if you could attempt to answer that a little more thoroughly, that part of the question.
My understanding of that particular portion of the policy is not that it must be exclusive to those public services mentioned, since it just says including. Really, if you think of, well, there are parks and recreation. There are services that the city provides recreationally. This would fall in line with services the city provides.
Anybody? I've got, do you?
No.
Okay.
Are you?
I want to reserve this time for just a little bit of stuff that I'm concerned about. I too am concerned about the document that provides a overview of the municipal need and necessity of this particular structure. You might know, as a matter of fact, I think Mary Jo made a comment that some time ago that we all know that there is at least one more operation that or entity that wants to do something in Marshfield in terms of an athletic facility. And the question that, of course, immediately bobbles up is, if I have now furnished you with funding for yours, why can't I find funding for somebody else? And that I'm concerned about. The one thing I do want, and I wanted to get this out with Matt, I think I confused him a little bit, but what I'm saying is that 800,000, or that huge number, the 800 or something, well, that is all the hotels in Marshfield, for annual, is that right?
Ed, the 836,160 is the total economic impact that's estimated. That's spending money at hotels, restaurants, entertainment, travel.
And that's where I think you and I have always had a slight disagreement in our separate lives outside of this room. I think those numbers are wildly optimistic. And I also think that as each one of the people have come up here and spoken, it's projected that, we think that, or we can do this, that, the other thing. This is essentially a high-risk organization or a high-risk situation, as far as I'm concerned. And the other thing is, how much have you already raised? I'll have to ask the Columbus people, how much have you already raised, and what is the total dollar amount you need, and what have you already raised, and why do you need this 100? That's the big enchilada right there. Why do you need this money?
a couple of things, Ed. You know, as an Economic Development Board chair, we discussed these things with economic impact, and it was voted 5-2 to pass this, and we felt it hit all of our marks for that. I question when you're saying what value is this going to bring? What value is $250,000 worth of toilets to the Wenzel Plaza going to bring for economic impact? We have business leaders. We have
Keep going if you want to gavel.
That's fine. You can gavel me.
Okay.
8% of the hotels and that money is all coming back in here. These people are going to buy groceries. These people are going to look at houses, potentially relocate their business into Marshfield. Like I said, we don't have a natural resource here. We're pulling people in from all over the state and outside of the state.
Okay, thank you. Columbus, you want to answer that question?
We've raised almost exactly $10 million, and it's a $10.5 million project. We are here because we're trying desperately to get it across the finish line, and we've gone to almost everybody that we can go to in the community. It's important to us that the entire project be local. All the contractors, subcontractors are local. Most of the donors are local. And we're hoping that the city council will come through with $100,000 of $10.5 million, so it truly becomes a community project.
Okay. Anybody else? Natasha.
Go ahead.
I have a question about, I've been on the council for 2 years, but I noticed on one of the minutes, potentially, or maybe it was the email from HAP, that said that we did not donate to the high school field house. I'm just wondering what the precedent was for that. I also heard that we didn't donate to a St. Vinny's project. I know that at the moment, when I have been on the council, we stopped giving funds to outside organizations such as the Civic Band. I forget what other organizations we stopped giving funds to. I think the Job Center was the only one, and that's because we had a contract with them. So maybe Hap could talk to this, or Steve, maybe you know the history of why did we not approve requests in the past, and is there a precedent?
Sure. I'll just talk to the comments you made. First of all, with the high school project, we were never approached by them to give money. They probably approached a lot of donors, but they never approached the city proper for a donation. With respect to St. Vincent de Paul, yeah, back at that time, they were looking for some funds under our facade grant program. And at that time, TIP District number 4 was the financing source. And because they're not a tax-paying entity, it was determined that the increase in value, if you will, that building wasn't going to produce any tax revenue. And, they were disheartened by that decision, but it was tied very clearly to how the program was created. And you're right, back in 2018, when we passed this policy 4.450, it was largely to deal with the issue that we were regularly funding a lot of organizations. You mentioned Civic Band, School Patrol, the Upper Mansion, and others. We did keep like you said, the Job Center because we have a contract with them. We lease space for them in the 2nd Street Community Center. So that's the rationale. If I could take it one farther, maybe I just want to throw out a suggestion. When I brought this here tonight, I never really expected this body to make a decision of any kind. Truthfully, until the city attorney got me a response on Sunday with respect to whether policy 4.450 applied, I wasn't sure if that was going to be part of this equation, so I didn't even include it in the agenda packet. You guys are seeing it really for the first time now, and you guys have seen it real recently too. I think what I'm hearing here is that there's enough interest in this project by many of the comments to consider it for funding. But I would suggest that you ultimately postpone this 2 weeks and have a chance to get the policy sent to you, dig into it, and then go through it at the next meeting and use that policy. Use whether it meets the criteria in that policy as your record as to whether or not you would recommend to the full council funding. That'd be a perfect record. There's a number of criteria laid out, and the applicability, to what degree that would be your record. That's just my suggestion. You can take it for what it's worth.
I was going to actually take it for what Steve said, but send it to the council for the council to discuss, all 10 of us. I mean, don't get me wrong, the 5 of us can make a very good decision, but the 5 of us know that if it's a $100,000 donation, The other 5 are going to pull it out of the consent agenda and we're going to discuss it anyway. So, I mean, it's not something for us to chew over for 2 weeks and bring it back to this committee and say, hey, let's vote on it and send it to the committee. Someone's going to pull it out. You know, yeah, Mr. Wagner will pull out a consent agenda and all 10 of us will talk about it anyway. So just put it as an agenda item on the next council meeting so that all 10 of us can discuss it, get this
The
policy
point-
out to the council members.
Yep.
So that we can sit there and we can discuss it as a group. This is a large amount. It's not $20,000, it's 100. So I'll make a motion to move this to the council for next week, Tuesday's meeting as an agenda item.
We have a motion on the floor, second by Rebecca. Discussion? Natasha?
Can I request that Mr. Barg take this presentation and match it up with the policy and give us a document? Would that be okay for you?
The written materials you're looking at?
Mhm. So that when we are looking at the packet, you can say this meets this criteria, it doesn't, maybe you can work with HAP. Just, it would be a lot easier than us on the floor trying to decide if it meets the criteria.
I can make an assessment, yeah.
Thank you.
That is, okay, the biggest thing about this meeting, as far as I was concerned, was to start that process of creating a record for the council to look at and determine whether or not it would, let each council member for themselves determine whether or not it fits their criteria for funding or not. I like that. I was hoping that we would get far enough into this where we could say, let's recommend for or against for this. But apparently, I will give the Andy just a minute. I think I'm losing my train of thought, thank you. But I was figuring we would have enough information to at least make a recommendation tonight and let the council decide on the rest of it. But I have no problem with the other one. I wonder who's going to oversee the writing of that. I know Mr. Barg said he'll be happy to write it. I want to make sure that the flavor, if you will, of our discussion tonight gets into that record. And so it's not just another happy feel-good document. Okay, that's the last thing I want. I want us to make a good decision on this because this one is important.
And again, just
Barr, go ahead.
Thank you. And just to make sure there's no miscommunication or misunderstanding, what I'm going to give you folks is a clear assessment from what I can tell from the written materials compared with the policy 4.450. You're going to have to make the determination as to whether it crosses the bar and reasonably meets the criteria. But I will take what I've got and try and lay out an assessment of how it seems to match up with what the expectations of that policy are.
Be sure and give us enough time so there's a draft and a rewrite.
I will.
Natasha.
And I would also say there in the policy, it does talk about funding timing and the timing of budgets. And so please include that in that recommendation.
Any further discussion? We have a motion and a second. Excuse me. Oh, Andy, I'm sorry. I forgot about you.
That's okay. I'm forgetful. The one thing I guess more of a suggestion, just because I think as of right now, if we were to have the council meeting right after this, I don't think it's ripe enough for us to make a decision on that anyway. So I'd encourage Columbus then to make sure that they meet as much as possible. Now, I know they proffered that they had everything ready, and I haven't seen it, so I can't speak that way or the other, but more of a, I guess, reminder that, on here asks for a written statement and the like. So if they don't have that, then they want to bring it, but it sounds like they do have it, so.
My assumption is we're going to have to, I guess we're giving Steve the responsibility of digging into the documents they sent us, and we'll have to basically make a judgment whether or not they meet the bar of the policy or not.
Right, I just want to make sure we had everything there, but it sounds like we do from what was represented to us. So and then in that case, I'm probably just talking to waste time, so I apologize.
Okay. All right. Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Discussion, any further discussion? If not, all of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it goes back to, it goes to the common council. Thank the folks who showed up tonight to fight for their cause, and we'll have an answer for you soon. Okay. With that, we'll go on to the next item on the agenda, and that is a request to recommend council approval of 1-year extension of the existing agreement with the forward appraisal for property assessment services from July 1, 2024 through June 30, 2025, presented by Steve Bard.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well, the city has had forward appraisal as their city assessor now for about 3 years. We signed them on back after we were done with the previous term, I think at the end of 2020. Steve Shepro, the assessor, also does assessing for Wisconsin Rapids and Stevens Point, has done a very good job for us. He's got other individuals in his firm who help out as well. They've taken us through a very difficult reval, and I think they did a really good job. It was certainly challenging, but he and his team handled it very well, and we were able to get through it with minimal disruptions or arguments, if you will, about some of the changes. And the current agreement ends on June 30th of this year, so just in a couple weeks here. We're proposing a 1-year agreement extension running through June 30th of 2025, and it would be at the same rate, $84,000 a year. The contract has been provided as fully the same terms and conditions. Checking a couple of points, the finance director and the city clerk have both noted a couple of minor things that I'm probably going to follow up with Steve's staff, but they're very minor in nature, and I would recommend that the committee recommend council approval of this 1-year extension with forward appraisal, who's done a very good job.
Okay. Moved by Rebecca, second by Marshall. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? So carried. Okay, next is the request to recommend the council approval of revised policy number 3.145, recruitment, presented by Sarah Dressel, Human Resources Director. Sarah, go ahead.
Thank you. So tonight, I brought forth the recommendations that were brought forth regarding the recruitment policy. I provided in the packet the kind of redlined copy and then the clean version of it. You'll find that most of the changes occur in the search committee and appointment section, which is Section G, sorry, my thing went out. And what I did is I took into account the recommendations that were brought forth by several of the aldermen that are including outside agency representation and community leaders, as well as some of the verbiage regarding city staff as well. So what you'll find is the recommendation that I'm bringing forth is that when we are looking for example, city administrator or a department division head, what will happen is the search committee will be presented at the time that we are requesting to fill the position, so that this group can look at the recommendation and make any adjustments or changes before we even start looking for a candidate. So basically what I would be bringing forth would be what position we're recommending to fill, as well as who we would like to have on the search committee. So that's kind of the overall changes that were made in here, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Basically what I'm doing is recommending that Finance, Budget, and Personnel Committee recommend council approval of the updated policy for recruitment 3.145.
Rebecca?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Rebecca, second by Marshall. You know, you guys aren't the only ones here tonight. You know, you can relax a little bit. Okay, discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.
Thank you.
And next up. I'm losing my place here already. we have anything up? Oh, here it is.
For that.
Request by Councilmember Spiros to review and possibly request a renegotiation of agreements with Marshfield Clinic Health Systems, Inc., presented by Steve Bart.
Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Councilmember Spiros in a minute since she brought this up, but I just want to kind of set the table with a little bit of background. The city currently has 5 contracts with Marshfield Clinic Health Systems. They initially were multi-year terms, but now they have gotten to the point where all just annual renewals. They all 5 renew automatically unless they are modified or terminated. 3 of these agreements have a 180-day notice if you want to renegotiate or terminate. The other 2 have a 60-day notice. The 3 that have a 180-day notice are the Advanced Life Support Intercept Services, the Interfacility Transport Services, and the Hospital Medical Control. So if you think about it, they all end on December 31st of 2024. If we are going to discuss the possibility of approaching Marshfield Clinic with the possibility that we want to renegotiate these, that we have terms we want to modify, we need to put that marker in the ground by June 30th in order to do that. So my part of this meeting is to figure out if in fact there's desire to do that. So I need to send them a written notification that that is our intent. We went through that a couple years ago, ended up making some changes with them, and got through the process in a reasonable period of time. If we wait until July, these contracts, these 3 that I mentioned, will automatically renew. So with that in mind, I guess I'd like to turn it over to Councilmember Spiros to see if she has concerns about one or more of these agreements, and we'll go from there.
Go ahead, Rebecca.
Okay, most specifically, I think I was looking at the contracts regarding the Advanced Life Support Intercept Services and the Interfacility Transport Services. And basically, what I wanted to negotiate was just a higher reimbursement from them to help cover some of the overtime charges that we incur by doing these services for them, and just kind of offset some of that. And I think, I think every year we should look at this and it should go up. I mean, everybody who writes a contract with us increases it every year. So, I just think it's fair game. And we do, we do have a lot of overtime that's incurred. And we also have a need still at our fire department, for more people to work. And we have to figure that out. We have to find a way, to have more money coming in so we can offset those charges and get them the help that they need. Now, what those figures need to be, me. And name.
Steve.
And yeah, there'll be conversation on this and whether or not you want to do this, but if that is your purview, if that's what this body wants to do, I would suggest that we get the same team together that we worked so well with before. Steve and Everett are here. Jennifer, Jordan Munger, our accounting manager, did a great job of putting together a lot of figures, looking at the overhead cost of every run that we do. I would suggest that we maybe be tasked with coming back sometime in August with a sort of an update to the study that was done a couple of years ago and see what the numbers look like and whether or not we're covering our cost. That would be my idea. If you wanted to do that, I could notify the clinic that we're doing that. They weren't too taken back last time. They know it's business, and I think that's what you're suggesting right now.
Rebecca?
Yep, so in follow-up, I would like for you to notify the clinic that we are gonna look at this, just so that we don't miss that deadline of telling them. So let's do that. I have no problem with the team that you mentioned or bringing them together. I think that, this definitely should, involve the fire department. They should definitely have input in it, and the finance department absolutely has to have input in it.
Anybody else? Adam?
Close enough. When was the last time we renegotiated the pricing on this?
I believe it was 2 years ago. Am I correct? Or am I remembering this wrong? I mean, you were here. It wasn't last year, was it? I feel really dumb at this point. We went through it 2 years ago.
It was 2 years ago,
Yeah.
when we built in a CPI adjustment annually into that contract based on a specific measure.
Yeah, because I think the contracts are signed right around January 1, 2023. And again, just for the board, maybe those of you who weren't here at the time, or people don't remember it, we did a fairly extensive survey at that time, because there were a lot of questions being raised about the cost of an individual run, an interfacility transport. And the team, I feel really good about the team, how hard they worked to try and show what it really does cost, all things considered. And, maybe, I'm thinking by the end of August, we can have a good report too. That's why I threw that out. I think that would be the starting point as to whether the council would want to look at any adjustments.
Right, because I think Ms. Spiros makes a great point that basically every other contract that we have gets increased on a yearly basis. And the one thing that we need to keep in mind too is that inflation on good years is between 2 and 3%. So every year we should be getting a 3% increase on that, period. Anything above and beyond that, probably be on a yearly basis to figure out if there should or shouldn't be. But I think this should really be more of a standard, we need to review this every year, than let it skate through.
Yeah, a CPI adjustment is in the agreements. I believe I'm looking at the exhibit to, I believe it's the advanced life support one. But again, I think it's worthwhile. 2 years ago, we had an inflation rate of different than it is now. And I don't argue with the fact that it's good to keep up on these things. These are significant contracts. We can always take a look and see if we're still covering the city's costs, which is what we want to be able to say.
So then I guess I'll second Ms. Spiros' motion.
Okay, you're fine. Got it. Okay, discussion? Any further discussion? If not, the motion is to have a team formed to do this and look at it. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? So carried.
Thank you.
The last thing I've got on the agenda is items for the next agenda. Anybody? Natasha?
Just as we are looking at this contract and forming a team, I would ask that we have an agenda item where we discuss looking at the contracts we have with surrounding communities and making sure a team is formed to look at that as well for the EMS services.
Got it.
Okay. Are you, that was in the form of a motion? No, it's just a recommendation, right? Okay. Are there any other for the next agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Andy, second by Natasha. Please stand adjourned.